Okay. Excellent. Great. Well, it's great to see you all, and thanks for joining us today. Today is a focus of our coffee hour will be on upcoming certifications. So your questions, your needs, your support. We'll start with some tips and overview and reminders, but we really want to have most of this just a dialogue with you and how we can answer questions. If you have specific like process related questions or questions that are probably other people are wondering about, those would be the great ones to ask. If they're very specific about like a specific action in your town, you're wondering if it's eligible for points, probably better to take offline, but let us know and we'll connect you with someone today who can help you with that. So yeah, that's the way it's going to run. With our coffee hours, we like to have a chance to hear from you, get to know you all better. So this will be informal. Please, you can put stuff in the chat, but we like to see your faces and hear your voices. So if you want to ask a question, it'd be great if you just come off of mute and ask it. We like to have you get to know our team a little better. Sure, you know some of us through email and webinars and coffee hours, but I like to start by just having our team introduce themselves so that you know who we are and how you can get in touch with us. So I'll start. Lynn Stoddard, Executive Director of Sustainable CT. Great to see you all. And I'm just gonna call names so you guys can introduce yourselves. Torin, why don't you say hello?
Thanks, Lynn. Hey, folks. Torin Radiccioni here, Program Assistant for Sustainable CT with an eye on the Sustainable CT website. Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thanks, T. Inez.
Hi, everyone. My name is Inez Ortiz, and I am also a program assistant here at Sustainable CT, but I don't have a narrow focus, so I work with everything. So you can reach out to me with questions or anything really.
Awesome. Dorothy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dorothy Pizik. I'm also a program assistant, and I'll just steal what Inez said and say ditto for me. So nice to meet everybody.
Great. So Inez and Dorothy are the newest members of our staff, been with us a couple months. So glad you're having a chance to meet them today if you haven't already. Jim.
Hi, everybody. It's Jim Hunt, Communications Manager at Sustainable CT. Good to see you.
And Kate.
Morning. My name is Kate Richard, Program Manager of Sustainable CT. Thanks for joining Coffee Hour today.
And Joseph.
Hi, folks. Joseph Dickerson, and I manage the Community Match Fund.
Great. So I think that's it for our full-time staff today. I see we have a lot of our fellows in on the coffee hour as well. So why don't we do this just so we can get to know each other better, but not take a lot of time up front. As you have questions or want to chime in on an answer or something that's been helpful for you, please just introduce yourself by name and your affiliation, if you're with a sustainability committee in your town or a staff member, and which town you're from. And if you want to rename yourself with your town right now, that would also be fabulous. And fellows, yeah, likewise. Maybe the fellows can just put their names in the chat and what council of governments they're working with, because they are on the front lines and you've probably been working with many of them this summer. So there we go. Let's get rolling. All right. The most important thing to know about certification is the deadline. Who knows the deadline? Everybody, right? August 15th, August 15th at noon. So that's right around the corner. And as you know, we have 2 certification opportunities each year, one usually in April, and then this opportunity in August. And either opportunity can be used if you're not fully ready to submit for certification for review only. So you can work on lots of actions and submission and want to get a sense from our expert certification review team of how those are doing, how it looks, and get comments back in either certification time. So if you want to do that in August and you might not have done all the required actions or actually achieved the point threshold that you need for certification, you can still submit. Torin will tell you a little bit about how to do that. And you will get the full review comments from everyone. A little bit about the review process. We're a small team. You just met all of us except Jess, who's out for the day today, Jess LeClaire. So that's pretty small. We're amplified and fortified by the fellows every summer. So that's an expansion of our team, which is great. We're not content experts in all of these areas of affordable housing and transportation and clean energy. We rely on strong partnerships with other organizations. So the same organizations that are providing technical support on many of these actions, like the Green Bank or the Partnership for Strong Communities or the Nature Conservancy or DEEP on materials management, they are also reviewing the actions that you submit. So for example, if you submit under 9.1, one of the waste actions, that action is being read by the same reviewer. Every town who submits 9.1 is reviewed, so there's consistency there, and it's someone with expertise in that area in our partnership. Then there's another round of quality control review that we do. Each action that you submit gets looked at least 2 or 3 times and read by different people. So that to say that it's an involved process, it's rigorous. We take it very seriously because we know you guys are working really hard and deserve a lot of attention on the work you're doing. And it takes a few weeks. So generally, the round 1 with the expert reviewers who are outside of our organization have a couple weeks, and then we do this quality control, and then we have to kind of do a look across, like, did you get every category? Did you, hit all the required things and so on? So there's various levels of looking at it. But we do anticipate having the results ready. In other words, letting you know about the results of your submissions by the end of September. And we're planning the annual awards ceremony for certified towns for the week of October 16th. So probably the 17th, 18th, or 19th. So stay tuned. That's an opportunity for everyone involved in sustainable CT to get together with each other, network, meet each other, and celebrate all we've done. And for certified towns this year, they get their award plaques and recognition in front of all of your peers, and you can bring your whole team. So that's a bit of a big overview. A couple things on details. Again, you can submit a partial application. Anything that you click completed in your dashboard, we will review. If it's not ready for, and it's just kind of notes and stuff, don't click completed on that action, and it's still your working dashboard. Please try, if you've been certified or submitted before, to kind of clean up your application, include content and documents that are relevant for this certification. Anything that you've submitted before gets archived. Torin can talk more about that, and it's stored somewhere where you'll be able to see it later on. But for now, to help the reviewers, we just want to see the documents that are relevant to what you're submitting for certification right now. Try to label your things clearly, your documents, so that, again, it's easy for the reviewers and we can understand what we're looking at. Torin's going to do a little walkthrough with the dashboard, so he'll get into all this stuff. Very important, as you know, action 1.1, optimizing for equity, is required for all certification levels. And it's, as you know, it's a process, and it's maybe not quite as clear and straightforward of what to submit for documentation. For that reason, we pre-review equity toolkits. We will look at the whole thing. We have been doing them all summer, and even, as early as last spring and winter. So if you're working on an equity toolkit, send it now to info@sustainablect.org. Don't send it if it's like not done yet, because yeah, if you know there's a lot of work to be done, we don't need to read it and tell you that, but we can give you a quick read. And often with the equity toolkit, because it's a process, you're telling us how you connected and changed a municipal decision because you were listening to people in your community. Sometimes you're not telling the story clearly enough for us to understand that process. And so submitting it now, so we can just have conversations, ask you questions, and help you tell the story is much easier than, waiting until August. So encourage everyone to do that. Your fellows are available in the COGS. Our staff is available. August 15th, the website gets busy, and you can imagine, like between 11 and noon, lots of things are happening. God forbid we have like a thunderstorm on top of it or power issues. Submit early if you can. We don't want you being nervous, like, this didn't work, I'm having technical issues. We'll help you through it. Of course, we'll give you leeway if there's stuff going on, but a lot easier and less stressful for all of us if you're able to kind of start submitting as early as possible. We actually have one submission already for this certification cycle, which is awesome. So I'm gonna turn it, well, actually, why don't we just, any questions that you want to hear about, and then we'll have Torrin walk through more details on the submission in the dashboard. But if we get your questions now, we'll be sure that those are included when he does the walkthrough. So who's got something you want us to address or that we can answer right now?
Hi. Hello. No, I'm supposed to have my little hand up. I'm Alice Smith. Thank you for hosting this. I am new to this. I'm in the town of Reading, and we'll be sort of jump-starting our process. We've tried it in the past, kind of didn't pan out, but here we are again. I do apologize. I do have to leave early, but I just want to make sure these things will be recorded so we can review. Is that correct? These meetings?
Yes, we're recording this meeting, and since you registered, you will get a direct link to it probably later today.
Great. I just thank all of you. You've all been amazingly responsive this week. I literally dropped a few emails and boom, I got response right back, and have a few Zoom meetings next week. So I thank you all.
Awesome. Great, Alice. It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet all of you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? All right. Well, maybe we'll have Torrin start sharing screen and getting into the nitty gritty. And then you can chime in with your questions. While he's doing that, I do want to remind all of us that Sustainable CT is about connecting with people in your town about a common vision for your future. I know we created this monster of points and the game of getting points, but it's really not about that. It's about what's happening in your community and the relationships and the change over time, and just making it a more welcoming and better place for everyone. So in this kind of season of panic around certification, take a deep breath every once in a while and remind yourself, like, what is this really about at its core? And if you don't have enough points to get where you want it to be this August, that's fine. Processes take time. We'll be with you, we'll work with you. We want to see meaningful change. And yeah, don't get too caught up in the panic. All right, T, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Can you share? Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So I'm on our test towns application. So this is essentially where I do all of my testing, where we have any new additions or new features added to the website. I try to make it so that when I submit an application, I almost am like, just like the towns, just to see if I have any errors when I get these features. So I've collapsed all of the actions that I'll be working out of, because I want to focus on one thing, essentially, is the tracking of your actions for certification. The website will not send any action submissions to our reviewers unless those actions essentially are marked completed on your application. So as I expand my application, you can see I have a majority or all of the actions that I want to submit already marked completed for certification. And you'll be able to see that through this tracking application tracker here, you'll see that I meet all of the categories, the 12 out of 12 to submit for certification, which will allow me and grant me access to click this blue button. Essentially, if you were submitting a partial application, this category will not be there. So therefore, you will not have access to this blue button. So when we mean submitting a partial application, it means you do not essentially meet the requirements to submit on your own, and you just need my help essentially to go and submit it for you on behalf of the community. And that's all done just through a really quick email, just saying, hey, we need to submit our application this year. It's going to be a partial submission, and we'll know exactly what you're talking about on the day of the certification cycle, or even sooner at that point if you get everything marked completed before then. And we actually also have some other tabs here, especially these are really important for people that are going for gold. As of right now, we have the all 3 equity actions within category 1 are required for submission, as well as, I believe, if I get the completed filter off and I expand everything, we have 8. Is it 8.7 or is it 8.6? It is 8.6. So unless those 4 actions are marked completed, you will not essentially be able to submit for gold level certification, but we will still consider your application for either silver or bronze. Another big thing to pay attention to in this calculator is the total points. So obviously we have different points thresholds for bronze, silver, and gold. If you do not meet these initial requirements for bronze, that also probably means you will not have access to submit for the cert application. However, if you marked enough actions completed and enough points to go over that threshold, that is one thing that will then qualify you, that will give you access to submit. Let's see. I see a question. Let me just pull up the chat. Any questions? Oh, looks like Kate has already taken care of it. Thank you, Kate. One thing I do want to point out is this notion of your action submission having incomplete fields. This is a question that I get a lot on certification day. The big question essentially is, well, Torrin, if my application has incomplete fields, will I still be able to submit my application? Yep, we will. The website does not recognize that incomplete field section as, I guess, a barrier to entry to submit your application. That's just letting you know that you're missing one or more pieces of information or text in those fields that have this little red star right here. The reason why that incomplete field is really helpful in my mind is because all of these and all of the information that's relevant to this red star really helps reviewers understand the submission that you're submitting for, or the points that you're submitting for, the sub action that you're submitting for, as well as the time frame for credit, which is important. Again, is it new action credit? Is it credit that's previously existing? As well as the partners. This is a really big box, especially if you're working with a lot of nonprofits and third-party organizations to achieve the action submission. We want to know who has helped you achieve this action submission and achieve those points. And this is generally the information that is usually missing from most submissions come submission time. But again, that information will not prevent you from submitting your application. You can, if there's still things, especially since it's a partial submission, that your community may be unaware of or you don't know at the moment, we completely understand. Again, this is just something to help reviewers out in the long run to understand your submission. Let's see. Some of the key tips I do want to bring when you're at this action submission page. Make sure you are inputting the correct requested amount of points. If you do not see the point totals that are available within this drop-down menu, please feel free to reach out. That might be a website issue. I'm more than happy to resolve that for you as quick as humanly possible. I also want to point out that this action submission does not autosave. We do, every time you do make an edit onto this action submission, and you need to then, let's say, move to a different action submission, I highly recommend you clicking either save action submission button at the top of the page, or towards the very end where we have the clearing of all of our text. I think that's about it for the certification application. I also do want to point out that we do have a climate leader designation that is essentially a separate application, which also has a different or a similar process, but you would also need to follow that to submit that application as well. Let me just check the chat if there's any questions. I don't think there's any questions in chat. Is there anybody that wants to come off mute and has any questions about the actual action submission or the certification application? All right, I think I'm just going to move on to the climate leader designation. If anybody has any questions, like I said, just please feel free to put them in chat. So I'm going to go back to my homepage and I'm going to access my municipal dashboard. You can do that at any time, folks, by hovering over your My Account button and just highlighting that first option, municipal dashboard, and giving that a click. So to update your town application, you would update your town application, but I'm more concerned about the updating the climate leader application. So I will click the update climate leader application. And you see that it only is essentially a one action application. It behaves the same way as our certification application. Essentially, there's no point, so you don't have to set anything for submission, but you do have to upload what we consider a climate leader worksheet. And we have that posted within the climate leader action itself. So this is essentially tracking the actions within our certification application that you've completed and reaching that point threshold of 140 points. So I'm going to go back to this application. So you'll see right now that this status for this application is marked to completed. And I think I just submitted this, so this probably should do this on a separate account. But as I submit this application, you'll see that I'm allowed to because this action is marked completed. So I will submit the application and it will give me a nice little notification saying that this action is now locked from further editing and I can't make any edits if I'd like to. I will say that we just got off with the first town that actually submitted their climate leader application this week. They received an error message upon submitting their climate leader application. And I want to say that response is normal if the status of this application or the status of this action, is not set from planned, must revised, approved to completed. Again, it's following that same rule within our certification application that sustainable CT reviewers cannot review any actions within the back end of our system unless that action itself is marked completed. So that is probably the biggest issue that we have, as well as the idea that when submitting this application, you need to submit the climate leader worksheet, as well as marking any actions that you want reviewed that are new to your submission, completed on your certification application as well. So if you're a climate leader community and you're only certifying or wanting to apply for climate leader this year, you probably will trigger an impartial submission within your certification application. And you can just email us at info@sustainableCT and we'd be more than happy to submit on your behalf again. So I think that's it in terms of any of the tips, tricks, and anything that I have for certification. I do want to say that this webinar is going to be made available for future recordings, but if anybody has any questions now, please feel free to come off mute or even raise your hand. Dave, I see that you have your hand raised.
Thanks, Torin. First of all, Lynn, I want you to know your staff and interns and others are wonderful. We are working with Jess and Dorothy. Ace is our equity coach and Pooji is our summer intern. All are fabulous. The one thing, and I was just writing you a question, we get in two areas, it says incomplete fields.
Yep.
And it's completely blank on our end. And Jess said that maybe we need to Zoom or something, but we can't figure out how to fix it. Have you heard of that problem?
Yes, so if you, Dave, if your town has previously either applied for that action or marked it completed and potentially saved that action, you're probably going to get that incomplete fields. And that's something probably I'd like to bring up to my developers, like if that action was then saved, or if there's a history of that action where something minor along the status may have changed, how that can be deleted or removed if the town isn't essentially completing that action for certification.
Okay.
I will let you know, Dave, that action itself, if it doesn't have anything in it, you shouldn't receive any error, any kickback of your application if you try to submit for certification this year.
Okay. So I was what's the word, chatting with Lynn, and we're ready to do the submission to be the second town in for this cycle. And just so everybody else knows, this is our third try, and 3 times is the charm. And that's why I cannot tell you, Lynn, how fabulous your team. I mean, almost daily they've been helping I'm the chair of the Granby Conservation Commission, and this is really important to our first selectman and board of selectmen to get bronze level certification. And it's kind of a jumping off point for us because we just want to document what we're doing good, but the commissioners really want to take Granby to the next level. So they want to start with a baseline to then work on some of the harder things. So Jess, I think, thinks we're ready other than these error messages. So if I push the submit button, then because we put all the things in for Granby, you think that will be okay?
Yes, Dave. So as long as you meet the action requirements, so the points threshold, as long as you have an action mark completed in every category, and I believe the required action of having equity 1.1 marking completed, you should be able to submit. I will tell you that if you do get any error message of any kind, please let me know as soon as possible. Like, my job is to sit there and resolve those errors as quick as I possibly can. And that's why I'm here. So I don't think you should have any issues though.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for your comments and all the hard work you guys are doing. It's great to hear those stories. And yeah, just click submit if you're ready. Better to do it now than wait a week or two. And we'll
Lynn,
work with you.
And Lynn, just to know for other towns that are going to listen or on the call, my commission got a little discouraged, and I said, it's not going to happen, immediately overnight. These are things you have to really work on and get it right. So I encourage towns, no matter what try this is, keep trying, because we really think we're close. And again, ours was the equity toolkit, which is why we got ACE, I think Ricker assigned to us. And but we've really worked on that one. So my advice is to keep trying, and eventually it will be successful.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for that, Dave. Yeah. Like I said before, it's improving your town. So your efforts and trying all have tremendous value. Who else has a question, or does anyone else from our team or fellows have any tips or reminders they want to share, or common questions you hear when you're working with towns that would be good to just share with others because they come up often?
Oh, I guess another thing too, since we're approaching the certification deadline, folks, if you have anybody at all that would like to get added to the application to do any work or added to your town's municipal profile, now would be the time to either email me or Jess. I think some of you already have Jess's email, but I will put my email in the chat just in case you guys need a little bit of website assistance before the big day.
Yeah, and to make it easier, so you don't have to know everyone's email, which you can find on our website, but info@sustainablect.org comes to all of us. So you'll get a really quick response because we all see it and we make an effort to respond to those, very, very quickly. Amelia, hi.
Hi there, Amelia, working on the New Haven application. And I was wondering about, since all the sub actions under one are required for gold certification if filling out every part of that sub action is also required.
I'm gonna hand that one to Kate. Or
Yes, that's a really good question. So for context, Tara mentioned earlier, if you're applying for gold certification, all of category 1 is required. For any level of certification, you have to complete action 1.1 or that equity toolkit. For everything else, you have to do all 3 actions. So of those 3, and I'm looking right now to fact check what I'm about to tell you. Okay, of the 3 actions in that equity category, action 1.2, participate in equity training, is the only one with more than one piece to it. So within that training action, you can either attend Sustainable CT's equity training series or have your municipality host its own equity training. You do not have to do both of those things to get credit and points for 1.2. So you can do either option for the training, your equity toolkits, and your municipal statement on equity under action 1.3. Does that answer your question, Amelia? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Everyone's being shy. What else is on your mind? Well, I'm wondering if some people may not be submitting necessarily in August, but just here to learn. And if that's the case, we'll take a minute to do a little promotion on our community match fund, which is our way of supporting implementation of sustainability initiatives and actions in your town. And as you probably know, we have designed this so that it's accessible to anyone with a great idea to make your town a better place. And the way that, rather than a traditional municipal grant that comes through town staff or the mayor's office saying, we will do X, Y, and Z, we ask people what needs to happen in your neighborhood. So for that, ideas can come in from individuals, groups. You don't have to be a nonprofit. It can come in from town staff or the mayor, anyone. And you talk to Joseph about it. We set you up on our crowdfunding platform. We coach you in crowdfunding, and then we match every dollar you raise to have the funding to do your project. So someone can maybe put the link to our funding section in the chat. And for this summer, we traditionally have a $1 to $2 match for crowdfunding. We are offering a $1.50 to $1 match for those projects that are reducing food waste and organic waste. So we're happy to tell you more about that. We have lots of webinars, office hours, and activities, and we'll have an upcoming webinar soon on what some other towns are doing on food waste. So stay tuned for that. But that was just kind of a placeholder while we're waiting for more people to ask questions. Well, team, fellows, any words of advice?
You're not alone. If you have any kind of panicking, we're panicking too. We're right along with you. So just please feel free to email us at info@ and just let us know what's going on, what's wrong, and we'll be there to assist you.
Yeah, and clicking submit, like, it's just us. I know it's submit through cyberspace, this big thing of everything you've worked on. We're at the other end of it. We're people. And like, if something went wrong or you click submit by accident or whatever, don't worry about it. We'll work with you. So again, submitting early is preferable. Even if there's some glitch in doing it, we'd rather see that than like you sweating it out at the very end. All right. Any questions about anything not related to certification?
Oh, I just thought of one sort of general tip. Sometimes our actions change a little bit from year to year. So if you are submitting something, maybe an action for rolling credit that you have already gotten approved in a past application, just take 2 minutes and check the current action to make sure that nothing has changed. When we make changes, we try and simplify it. So this shouldn't be like, oh, and you have to do another 5 or 6 extra things, but there might be a couple different things about what you need to submit. So just double check to make sure you are submitting what is up to date with the current action requirements.
Yes, Pallavi.
Hi, since you opened this for a broader question, I was just wondering, as I mentioned in my introduction, I work a lot with towns in Connecticut, although I'm a resident of Massachusetts. In terms of sort of the trend for these certifications, I remember you saying that there are a couple of towns that have already gotten certified, or did I don't know if I made that up in my head or you actually said that. But the reason I'm asking is in Massachusetts, you may already know, we have the MVP program that the state is essentially, I could say, requiring towns to be MVP certified, but that wasn't the case when they first started. So I guess my question is comparing kind of where Connecticut is in terms of different towns being interested in getting the certification, but also applying for grants to help them with it. And, you know, where do you see the trend heading?
So yeah, I'll try to give a quick overview to answer some of those questions. We launched our program in November of 2017. So throughout those past 5, almost 6 years, we've had 131 of our 169 towns in Connecticut are registered. So they're participating in the program, which is free. And currently 61 are certified. Certification lasts for 3 years. There have been many towns that have come in at bronze, moved up to silver, towns that have certified originally at bronze and stayed at bronze, towns that use it as an audit and submit annually and aren't necessarily increasing their certification level, but just kind of keeping it current and looking at their best practices. This is the first year we have the gold level certification, so we will see some submissions for that in a few weeks, which is super exciting. And we have the climate leader which is an overlay to certification, which says of the actions you've submitted for certification, many of them are tagged with a climate impact. So we've said this has high greenhouse gas impact or resilience impact, and you can achieve the number of points on that and then get that overlay that in addition to being certified, you've done these extra things or focus on climate. So as far as grants and money, we have our own program called the Community Match Fund, which I mentioned. We are in active conversations with a number of commissioners and state agencies because we've heard from you, our towns, that certified towns is a lot of work and shows a huge commitment by the town, and you should get extra like bonus points on discretionary grants coming through the state of Connecticut. Department of Housing in their recent community development block grant actually included us as a requirement that towns had to at least have a conversation with Sustainable CT to leverage those affordable housing funds that they're applying for. And we're in active conversations with DEEP and DOT and others about like, how can we make that happen, especially with a lot more grant money coming down. Some of the things we have seen though is maybe less direct, but impactful. So towns, for example, that do our climate resilience action, assess climate vulnerability, are walking through a community resilience building workshop with our partner, the Nature Conservancy. And that what comes out of that is a report of where your town is vulnerable to the changing climate and prioritization. Deep just earlier this summer announced the climate resilience grants that they awarded. And many of those towns had been through this community resilience building workshop as part of Sustainable CT. So no, Deep wasn't quite like giving bonus points for certified towns, but essentially the town came to the grant process having done the analysis and having essentially being ready to put in an application because they've done the prioritization. So I think there's examples of that across the spectrum in a lot of our actions where the work you're doing and this audit and documentation of it prepares you to be ready for grants because you've got everything organized. You've said what you've done a lot of processes to prioritize municipal policies and implementation ideas. And once that grant comes up from state or federal, you can kind of plug in that work to that. Did I catch all your questions?
I think so. Just one clarification is, has there been an attempt to maybe prioritize more urban communities or environmental justice communities? Just because I've heard about this sort of analysis tool for EJ populations, but I wasn't sure if it was necessarily a part of the way the state might be supporting climate resilience in more urban or climate vulnerable communities.
Yeah, so basically our approach from the start has been every community has vulnerable populations, and this 1.1 required equity action is understanding who's vulnerable in your borders. So whether you're listed as a distressed community or a Justice 40 community or whatever, we know that there are people in all of our neighborhoods who need to be more included and need access to municipal services. So that's pretty much our approach. That said, we closely track the list of distressed communities by the Connecticut DECD and their engagement in our program. There's a higher percentage of engagement of distressed communities in Sustainable CT, in other words, registered, than the state as a whole. There's a higher percentage of those communities getting community match fund projects going and money from us for that than the state as a whole. So, and we do some targeted outreach to those communities to make sure they're aware of our resources and support.
Thank you. It's really helpful.
Yeah. And we're Sustainable CT is part of a national network called the Sustainable States Network that includes programs like Massachusetts Green Communities, which is a state-run program. We're a nonprofit, and Sustainable Jersey and Minnesota Green Steps. So there are 16 to 18 similar programs around the country that were developed specifically for that state. What we all have in common is we're working at the level of local government decision making and sustainability, in local municipalities, and we learn a lot from each other. We have apply for grants together and collaborate on a lot of things.
That's awesome. Thank you.
What else? Anything else? Okay, so deep breath. Happy August coming up. We got this. We're with you. Got a huge dream team behind you. And if this isn't the year, we're with you. August 16th to get going for next year, whenever you're ready. Thank you all for joining us, and please reach out. Have a great weekend.